is Joleen Steyn-Kotze. I am one of the Inaugural Fellows of the African Science Leadership Program. So a golden oldie of 2015 that went through the program. I am a Chief Research Specialist in Democracy and Citizenship at the Human Sciences Research Council. And I joined the HSRC after my tenure at the African Science Leadership Program. So I think there one can already see there was a kind of a push to get me out of my comfort zone at the Nelson Mandela University where I was at and move more towards a research and impact focus in my career. Well, I think, we all come in with, when one applies for these types of programs and you get in, you have a certain expectation, that it's going to be your run-of-the-mill, this is how you write, this is how you do science communication, this is how you, do this and this and this. But I think the actual experience of it was just something completely different. The interactive way, the way participants were able to actually lead the discussion, to isolate the themes, to really bring forward our own realities and our own lived experiences as part of the science community, I think was extremely valuable. And we have to remember, we all came from different places, right? Different parts of Africa with different contexts and different baggage. We all come into those rooms with baggage as well. And it was just a phenomenal experience. The way I would describe it was a little bit of academic therapy coupled with setting your future goals and your future vision of how it is that you want to engage the science community and how you want to be as a scholar for yourself. My ASLP fellowship, I think, was, as I mentioned, I was kind of pushed out of my comfort zone a little bit. So for me personally, the ASLP fellowship came at a time where I was needing to fly the proverbial nest and spread my wings. And through the fellowship program, it dawned on me that there are two areas that I'm particularly passionate about. The first one is research and actually getting the knowledge. But then, of course, the question is what do you do with the knowledge afterwards? And I think there, the fellowship really opened my eyes to a lot of creative means on how we can actually start disseminating what it is that we learned. The second area, which took me a bit longer to get there, might I add, a full circle in 10 years, I would say, is around coaching and mentorship. So for the last 2 odd years, I have been doing quite a bit of science coaching, and I've actually been drawing a lot on what I learned through the ASLP program and transferring that knowledge to our interns around how they see themselves as scholars and who they want to be as scientists and scholars and science communicators. It's not an actual workshop moment, but I think more of a symbolism. So I don't know if you remember, we were at the Farm Inn. Yes, and the Farm Inn had lions. Yes, so my little hut where I was staying in, my little accommodation was one of those freestanding units, and we arrived that evening and you could kind of hear the lions, and it was all like, oh, I'm connected to nature, and it was phenomenal. And the next morning I woke up and I started making my way to go to the dining room for breakfast. And as I got out of my door, I turned the corner, I was at the fence line, and here I was looking at the lion. The lion was like, we were separated by this fence line. So of course, all this doubt starts coming in, right? How strong is the fence? How fast am I? And I'm glad to say I made it to the dining room. So that evening, when it was dark, I had to walk back to my room. And it took me about 5 minutes of a solid like pep talk to say that you can do this. Take one step, because in my mind, the lion is going to jump out and kind of go, you know, out of the blue. And it was amazing that is the memory that sticks with me, because I think very often in our careers, we are faced with something that we think, oh, I cannot do this. I cannot possibly do this. But if you give yourself that pep talk, and I literally said, okay, one step, next step, you can actually eventually get to where you have to be. I think there's quite a bit I've actually taken with me since the ASLP. It just took a little while. It needed to marinate a little bit, you know, and we needed to internalize. But I think one of the most valuable tools for me is the tool of reflection. That was one of the I think, areas that once you start implementing it in all aspects of your life, not just your career, can actually bring you to that aha moment that you need, especially when it comes to what are the next steps I want to take in my career? How is this going to impact on my personal goals and my personal life and my family life? How can we balance the two? And I found through the practice of reflection and the post-it method. The post-it method becomes my little thought bubbles that I stick on a wall. Can really bring you to a place of taking steps with certainty, as opposed to taking steps in doubt and kind of wondering what it is that you are doing. So for me, that reflective practice and the post-it technique and the, you know, I think is just the most amazing tool. Following hers, Connie. Connie, who was my inaugural fellow of the African Science Leadership Program, just the way in which she has really taken forward capacity building, mentoring, coaching, facilitating, training, I think is, and not just in a because she's Ugandan, so not just in a Ugandan context, but globally and a broader African context, I think is just, it's absolutely awe-inspiring. You know, I think that the biggest message that I would have for the African science community is that sciences, whether it's social science, natural science, ocean sciences, whatever science it is that you are involved in, it's still very much a human activity. And I think those softer skills that you get through the ASLP program that I've mentioned, things like reflection or, you know, just writing down little thought bubbles around what is bubbling up, can really give you the tools to navigate what is very often a very difficult journey in terms of becoming a leading expert in your field, or a leading writer, a leading thinker. And ultimately, I think one of the key things we need to remember is, within all sciences, we are all on a human journey of discovery. And if we can keep that as our mission, then I think the African science community can go really far. Reflective mirrors. All the other participants became mirrors and reflected their reality, and you, of course, reflected your reality and your lived experience. And those reflective mirrors allowed us to build a connection around a common goal. So for me, the description is very much reflective mirrors.